Welcome back to everybody. My name's Marvin Height. I'm RF supervisor here at WBNS TV here in Columbus, and the towers are right out that window. And I'm a member of the OAB conference committee. I hope everybody had a chance to get some more coffee and continue to wake up after the last session. And now that we all know how to stream, we're going to talk about ATSC 3. This session is titled Recent Experiences with ATSC 3 from Seoul to Phoenix, and it'll be presented by Joe Seccia from GatesAir. Joe's principal architect for GatesAir's product management group for the TV transmission products area. Since joining GatesAir in 1990, when it was, of course, then Harris Broadcast, Joe's held positions in a variety of capacities within the engineering and product management groups. He most recently led GatesAir's technology evolutions in software configurable exciters that support all popular worldwide DTV standards, as well as high efficiency transmitter platforms, of which at BNS I have 3 of them. Joe's an active participant in the ATSC activities and is a 32-year member of IEEE. He is a registered professional engineer in Michigan and holds 5 U.S. patents. Thank you. We're pleased to have Joe here today to share some recent examples with the ATSC 3 implementation around the world. Please help me welcome Joe Seccia.
Well, thank you, Marvin, for that kind introduction. I did turn it off, so hopefully we don't get the dreaded echo. So I presented a little while ago to a group that I was instructed were technical, and I asked the group, how many are SBE 8VSB certified? And I got like, that's one more hand than I got in that room. How many are technically, certified in such things? Okay, that's cool. So I chose to keep this a little bit higher level. As you maybe can tell from the title block, there's a couple of block diagrams, but hopefully we won't have your eyes glazing over. But I was involved similarly in VSB startup, so it's really a fun time when, back then, you went in and you made pretty pictures, and it was a big thing. A little bit more difficult now, but nonetheless a similar accomplishment factor by going in these early implementations and achieving, groundbreaking history a bit. So there is great industry activity picking up on 3.0, okay? One of the first things that was done is Sinclair in Baltimore, Washington, put on an SFN with their site in Baltimore, and then put a transmitter in at the WRC facility in DC. So did a lot of experimentation in that market on single frequency network technology and what kind of coverage increase could they get. So you've heard a lot more lately about the thing down the list a bit, their Dallas SFN, but they did a lot of SFN work pioneering in the DC Baltimore area closer to their home. There's the Cleveland experimental station. We helped pioneer that with the Tribune folks and our partners LG Zenith to do some initial testing at the time we had some candidate technology that we, everybody, it's like a burgoo. Everybody has their ingredient to the soup, and we wanted to test our ingredients to the soup. And WJW and Tribune was a very willing partner. They had a transmitter that was essentially mothballed in 2009 because they had elected to go back to VHF. Ownership change, said, we don't want to be in VHF. Don't do anything with that transmitter, just shut it off. Well, it stayed shut off for a long time till we fired it back up like 3 years ago. So that has been transferred, the licensure for that has been transferred to the NAB and Consumer Technology Association. The focus of Cleveland is basically physical layer testing, coverage testing, different modulation and coding factors, and how do they get coverage there. We even did some VHF testing that was a little bit inconclusive, largely because WJW had channel is on 8. They had a backup antenna that we chose to try and do channel 9 with, but there was a channel 9 up in Windsor that was kind of a limiting factor in what we could achieve. So NAB continues even the last week doing some physical air testing up there. South Korea pioneering this, having SFN networks on the air. I'll go into that in more detail a little bit later. Sinclair has a complete laboratory in their Baltimore facility, open the people to come in, experiment, bring gear, try out. They've been doing a lot of experimentation, probably one of everything in their laboratory there, but they're really trying to figure out just what it takes to make this all go together. Then you've probably read about their Dallas SFN experiment, and they would if they were in a room, tell me it's really not an experiment. This is how we're going to deploy this, and it was built up to be the deployment that they wanted to do in Dallas. Why move away from Baltimore, Washington? Because Dallas is a flat Earth society. Okay, so you don't get any terrain shielding. The SFN part, it has to work. It's got to be, put together so that it works right. This has come into a bit of a roadblock. It was supposed to be on the air by now because the Tribune merger fell apart, and the Tribune station in the market was supposed to be the host for the ATSC 1 services in the market. So with the Tribune merger falling apart, they've had to kind of go back to the drawing board, and it stalled that deployment just a bit. Pearl Group has turned on Phoenix, and that's got a little bit of a different, they're not testing physical air there. I've got a slide on that we'll go into. Michigan State University recently turned on. Their goals are to look into distance learning kind of things, store and forward for educational purposes, and just how can they leverage the power of IP and easier delivery into a home or a building or whatever from an educational perspective to achieve something they can't now. Weigel Broadcasting recently turned on in Chicago, and I've got a colleague that says, are physics different in Chicago than in Washington or in Dallas? No, they're not. But each market and terrain and DMA and population is quite unique. Okay, so that's why others want to do their own experimentation so they can understand their market. All right, so that's part of what Weigel's doing up there. Everyone's asking, well, when's this going to happen? Chicken and the egg problem. Who's going to be on air? Well, you can't be on air if there's no receive things. Well, unfortunately, I think the burden falls upon us as broadcasters. We got to get on, because if there's nothing to receive, then the consumer devices won't sell. On the other side of the coin, the consumer electronics people have to commit, say we're going to do this, so that you can commit and get to it. Okay. So, but if there's nothing to receive, it doesn't go a lot of places. So at NAB New York, there was a panel and an industry joint announcement that the CE manufacturers are targeting 2020 to have receive devices available in the market. Okay. Fox, NBC, Univision, Telemundo, Nexstar, etc., and Spectrum Co., they commit to collaborate and get a large share of services on air by 2020. All right, it's only a year and 2 months away, Christmas season next year or so. But you're seeing a lot of commitment to move forward on ATSC 3. And then small market broadcaster, News Press and Gazette, family-owned operation out of St. Joseph, Missouri. They turned on in Santa Barbara, okay, to do their own, again, experimentation, have people come in. Nice thing about Santa Barbara is it's not real close, but it's, close enough to San Diego, where Sony has a large presence and can come in and provide receivers and test. a little bit closer than Phoenix, but nonetheless, again, their own market, their own education, trying to figure out what's going to work for them in their business model. Okay, so they put together a little video on this and what they're doing and why.
Next Gen TV. It's the exciting future of television. For the first time, broadcast meets broadband to deliver visually stunning pictures. Greatly improved indoor and mobile reception, no longer constrained by buildings and structures. Viewers will have the ability to interact with content, and local TV stations will have the ability to do what they do best, keeping viewers informed and safe in times of emergency.
Local television is essential, especially in making sure that appropriate information gets out to the community. And that wasn't more evident than during the tragedy and the disasters that we recently experienced in the community. And so this next generation, 3.0 of television technology, is going to allow to continue in that tradition of expanding those opportunities to be able to interface information and communication with the public at large.
It's being developed and launched in markets like Dallas, Phoenix, and Cleveland, and in one small market, family-owned MPG of California in Santa Barbara.
Our family's always invested in the technology in our properties. We want to make sure that we have best technology for our people to perform. The situation that happened with the fires and with the floods back in December and January was a perfect situation when we use technology to our advantage to serve our communities. So we believe ATSC 3.0 or Next Gen TV will be that next step in serving our communities with great technology.
Stunning ultra-high definition resolution with high dynamic range, loads of interactive features, and multi-channel immersive audio. Sounds highly technical, but what's most important are all the bells and whistles that'll be available to viewers. And since it utilizes a robust new broadcast platform, we'll be watching live events and breaking news wherever we are, whenever we want. And speaking of breaking news,
one of the things we've learned here in Santa Barbara is that our disasters, they don't always happen in the middle of the day. Sometimes they happen in the middle of the night. 3.0 technology has an ability to turn devices on, waking them up, sending alerts out, text, video, graphics, all making sure that we are warned and aware of impending danger, keeping our families and our homes safe.
ATSC 3.0. It really is the next generation of television.
It's what gets us up in the morning. That's what gets us excited about being there for the community, making this a better place to live, helping the community move forward, keeping the people safe.
Santa Barbara will be the smallest market in the country to roll out and launch this revolutionary new technology. A big deal for our community, a big deal for our family-owned company.
That's pretty cool that News Press and Gazette turned on, because it was like two and a half years ago they asked us to come in and present to them and kind of educate them on just what 3.0 was, where it was going, how it works and all that stuff. And then the very next ATSC 3 meeting I was at, Jim DeChant, their director of engineering, was present and involved and active. And so they've remained active. They've put stuff on the air. I think that's really neat. How do we go forward now? There we go. This was from the Baltimore-Washington SFN experiment. Coverage study of what an SFN can do. You see the Baltimore pattern up north, the Washington pattern down south, and then this was even modeled to add 2 or 3 more transmitters to basically cover in. And as I said, every market and terrain and DMA is different. In Washington circles, sometimes you talk to folks in Washington, it's like, oh, this market's great for testing, so on, because of the varying terrain and elevation cap for towers. They can't put out a tower like Marvin's got back here. An SFN greatly enhances what they can do for coverage in Baltimore. the I-95 corridor. So there's an obligatory block diagram to hopefully we'll get over this pretty soon. I'm going to turn on the laser pointer here, but this is meant to show you that this is an ATSC3 architectural example, courtesy of my colleagues at Triveni. But you notice we changed the encoder to HEVC, or MPEG-5, or H.265, or scalable HVC coder. AC4 audio. There's a new world in here, because it's IP related, is it needs to be packaged in consumable chunks, okay? If you're doing some of that for your web video and so on from your workflow. Then we have to, but in broadcast here, we're delivering it in real time, so there has to be real-time object encapsulation or MPEG multimedia transport encapsulation. Then it hits this new device called the broadcast gateway, okay? I got a little bit more detail coming up on that. We go over an STL, we hit an exciter and transmitter, and you're on the air, nothing really new there. And we can have advanced emergency alert. That term's under debate, may change. Advanced emergency alerting is a feature of 3.0 or Next Gen TV. It is not meant to replace the EAS system you know and love today, okay? It's meant for you to be able to augment what you do. Wake up devices, send maps and weather and so forth to a viewer. The viewer can opt in, opt out, turn it off. Don't wake me up, or, yeah, I want to know. I live in a tornado-prone region. Wake me up anytime, So it's an advanced feature capability of the system. It doesn't replace EAS. You still have, in ATSC3 space, it's referred to as signaling, a signaling generator, somewhat analogous to PSIP that you do today. Then you can do store and forward or NRT, non-real-time content, cache that at a customer receiver. And if you start doing some targeted advertising kind of things, this is my zip code. You can put automobile dealer ads, political candidate ads that are relevant to that person's market or that person's address. And when it comes time to launch this commercial break, it pulls from the cache content and gets them the automobile dealer on that side, on his side of town, not the one on the other side of town, or things like that. Okay, so the idea here is that a lot of this you're already doing, but a key thing here is that all connections here are IP. All right, and our industry colleague Kelly Williams at NAB, due to their experience up at Cleveland, said this is serious IP. Okay, this is Cisco certified network engineer class problems and issues you need to work through. It's not getting email. Okay, so take this deployment very seriously with your IP infrastructure knowledge to make it successful. Okay. If we look at the essence encoding video audio detail of that block diagram, its potential, there's a bit of a missing box here. This is kind of like the Far Side cartoon where and then a miracle occurs and this happens. But if you can approach this now, if encoders can do multiple flavors. They can do HEVC and MPEG-2 so that you can keep your legacy on the air, and you can build this such that you have an MPEG transport stream to your ATSC1 MUX operation. All right, so you don't have to build two side by side. You can possibly build it and then branch off, and then so build what you need and branch off to your current service. And non-real-time delivery part of the block, with disk drives going solid state, we got to get rid of the cylinder here, but it needs to be signaled. It can be sent ready at the receiver. And then I want to concentrate a bit on this diagram. With ATSC3, the receiver chicken and egg problem again is always brought up. And it's like there is a term, the term gateway gets double billed in ATSC3, okay? So receiver folks talk about a home gateway. So this is a Roku, Amazon Fire, a whatever device in your home that also has an antenna spigot on it. And since ATSC3 will be much more ubiquitously receivable due to OFDM and coding and so forth, you put it in your home. A lot of consumers, they have no idea, nor should they really care. It's like I'm the one that tries to tell my daughter, no, get it off the air, you know. Don't get it from the satellite service. We can get that locally off the air and the picture's better. And look, I'm seconds ahead of my friend up north when I'm talking on the phone, and I can tell him touchdown, and he hates it, you know. But you know, so the idea that you can build in a receiver in a home media entertainment gateway device, moderate cost versus a new receiver, and that can sling the content to whatever consume media you want, a phone via Wi-Fi, a tablet, or a companion device, as it's called, where people may interact with the content, try to answer the Jeopardy question, or vote, or things like that. That's the companion device. You know, how many folks now are watching television and in the evening and they've got the tablet or whatever else? They're multitasking. You know, my wife does it all summer long with the Reds. You know, so, you know, she's got the baseball game on. It's just kind of background noise, but she's doing something else on the tablet. All right. That's really kind of, so many people are viewing content that way these days. But the other gateway is called the broadcast gateway, all right, on the very far left. And this broadcast gateway is something new in the infrastructure of ATSC3. And ATSC3 modulation, the coding, the forward error correction coding, and the waveform you put on the air is all configured by this gateway device. So in VSB, there was one configuration. It's in the exciter. You give it 19 megabits transport stream. It hauls the mail. It does one thing. With ATSC3, bit of a Swiss Army knife, and it's not the little one. It's the big one. It's got all kinds of blades and all kinds of ways to get in trouble. So you set up your on-air profile, your physical layer pipes, your forward error correction. You want a real robust thing that can be received by mobile devices, and you want a high quality HD or 1080p or take all the bandwidth 4K service. You set that up with the gateway device, and that puts information across the STL link. The exciter is listening for that all the time and configures to it to put your modulation on the air. So if you look at this, I've told it for this particular, for PLP0, digital, we start counting at 0. So I said I want 64 QAM, a 6/15 code rate, a 16K LDPC forward error correction, and I want to allocate that many cells to get about a 3 megabit pipe, the physical layer pipe. So that's going across the STL, and the exciter downstream of that says, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm at 64 QAM, 6/15, you know, I'm allocating that many cells. So the exciter reads back and configures itself to modulate as you've commanded it with the gateway. So a new device in your infrastructure that is absolutely key, usually living at the studio side, okay? And yes, it outputs at IP. This is some early pictures from Cleveland. But I say, you know, you're here in Ohio. I don't know how open the lab is to, you can go visit, make a call. But what's not shown in my pictures, because they're dated from the time we did a World Series game, Game 2 when Cleveland was in the World Series, that's when these pictures were on. So we did Game 2 World Series in ATSC3 from WJW, okay? So behind where this picture on the left is taken is an entire rack of gear now that is your studio workflow kind of stuff. I don't have any pictures of that, but you know, certainly it's close to home. If there's opportunity, try to make a visit. It's not that far away. Pearl in Phoenix is 12 station participation. Arizona State's KAT, there's Independent, Scripps, Fox, Meredith, Nexstar, Telemundo, and Univision, also here. Univision has two services. Some people refer to it as a sidecar, Unimos service. So what they did was they took the Unimos frequency and said that's going to be the 3.0 frequency. Let's put in a 3.0 transmitter on the Unimos frequency, and then we have to find a host. Somebody has to host what we used to put out on ATSC 1 on Unimos so that the market can still get it, all right? So Univision, they're their own host, okay? But that's what you have to figure out, because the voluntary nature ATSC 3 is you can't shut off VSB, you can't shut off the cash register legally or just business-wise. But you're going to go forward. There's not going to be a new channel necessarily, especially in the repack world where we're compacting frequencies. So you have to you have to cooperate with your neighbor in your city, in your market or whatever, and say, look, somebody's got to be the host the old services, and somebody's got to put on the new services. You have to start somewhere, all right? So there's some hosting going on here, and as more people get on air, you have to get real creative with who hosts what, who has what bandwidth available, and I know, although I don't deal with it daily, I know there are affiliate contracts and so forth that call for a number of megabits per second, okay? And that might have been applicable when we first launched ATSC1, when, I have to have 18 megabits because the quality of and the algorithms that were in encoders back in 97, 98, 99 were of a certain thing, and you needed a certain amount of bandwidth to achieve the quality picture you wanted. Well, not now. Okay, algorithms have greatly improved. You could, get a good service at much less megabits than that. So there has to be a little bit of a different quality of service component, but hopefully you can work on that in some contracts as we move forward. But I know some, are held up by that. So Pearl and Phoenix, there's the transmitter we put in. They're not testing physical layer stuff, okay? The whole focus of the Pearl group is to put on a working ecosystem for signal generation, emission, and reception, really focusing on the reception part. What kind of business models are going to work? Is this targeted ad thing that's like a real shiny object? Is that really going to do something? Consumer surveys, handheld devices. They even have app developers to develop mobile apps, in-car television, with autonomous vehicles. Now the driver can, soon the driver may be able to watch TV and drive to work because he doesn't have to drive, okay, and get in trouble. But so the in-car TV, one of the new partners they just signed up, I think, is Avis, okay, in the market to do testing. So they're trying to do everything it takes on the other side of the business to make 3.0 succeed, all right? So that's really the point in the Phoenix market, and there's a lot of other discussion that goes with that I'm not my place to go into. But I just want to let you know that that's what they're doing there. It's like, why is everybody doing all these things? Well, the focus here is one thing. The focus here is another thing. It's all going to come together so that we can all learn and go forward. And I wanted to point out here that, with it being IP now, bits are bucks. I think this picture said something about copywriting, with the Bitcoin next to RJ45 jack. This link here, this STL link, it's an IP link, multicast, IP, okay? I don't know if any of you were at the Midwest conference that was here in town a couple months back. I said it then, I'm going to say it again. This is very serious. This Ethernet switch, this VPN, whatever it is It's off in where your current STL room is or whatever. It is the cash register. It needs to be treated as such. It's very important. You can provision a VPN wrong or plug something in and be blasted off the air. It happened to us in Phoenix. You know, everything was working fine. I go home, you know, the next day, hey, we're red all over here. What's going on? Did anything change? No. Did anybody plug something in? Well, I just plugged in this something that had to share the link up to the transmitter site that wasn't provisioned. It's looking to register, and it, you know, gobbled up bandwidth. And it essentially took the Ethernet switch, and it was a HP Aruba switch that was provisioned. It bottlenecked the traffic. Unplugged it, back on air. Flawless. You got to be real careful. And I made the comment at the Midwest conference that you know, there needs to be the nuclear launch button cover over these IP jacks, right, or this switch. You know, qualified personnel only, and if you don't know what that means, you're not qualified. So stay out of the room. I'm going to take us now to Korea. All right, Korea, very pioneering in ATSC 3.0. Two big companies in Korea, LG, Samsung. A lot of technology in the ATSC 3 standard, and you know, they're an 8 VSB country, but they also do something else. They have a mobile TV service on VHF that uses a DMB, which is essentially like video over DAB. All right, it's on VHF. If you've ever flown to Incheon Airport, get in the bus to go downtown. They have video on the TV. It's horrible. Okay, it suffices. Yeah, you can watch it or whatever, but so they got VSB. They're pioneering with ATSC 3, but their real goal was to get 4K or Ultra HD TV. Everything was Ultra HD in that market to them. Hosting the Winter Olympics of 2018, they set a goal that this will be on. The Winter Olympics will be on in Korea in Ultra HD, and we're going to do use ATSC 3 to do it. Largely because LG and Samsung, you know, are technology providers, key technology providers, intellectual property in the system, because they were doing previous investigations using DVB-T2. They shut that down and said, we're going to leap forward and take advantage of the IP infrastructure, the future that it can hold. And then at some point in time, they have 3 services on the air. They actually allocated spectrum to put on the ATSC 3.0. So they've got ATSC 3.0 on air, their VSB on air, and this mobile service that runs down at VHF. Ultimately, with 3.0, they can collapse these into one service. Okay? So shut down VSB, shut down the mobile, and use ATSC 3 to do it all. All right? So MBC, Manhwa Broadcasting Company, is a key broadcaster in Korea. And I'll describe the mountain here a little bit later, but it's interesting. In this SFN situation, there are four transmitters, okay? And in Seoul, this is the Han River that separates northern and southern Seoul. So the real main sites are the Gwanak Mountain. That's the mountain you saw in the previous picture. And in Namsan Tower that covers the northern part of Seoul, and you may recognize. There's Gwangyo Mountain that covers the South Suwon area down here, and then there's a site way out here to the east that we'll go into. So that's what it looks like on Google Earth. Namsan Tower is here, Gwanak Mountain is here, Gwangyo is here. They're separated by about 12 kilometers each. Okay, so there's a key and from these 3 sites out to this far-flung site, Yangmun site, is about 50 kilometers. Well, the key to OFDM's friendliness to SFN environment is an item called guard interval. Okay, so we've got a useful symbol time, and then we insert dummy time. That's actually a replication. We take the end of this symbol, we prepend it up here, and this is the guard interval. So anything that lands inside this guard interval, the receiver doesn't sample there. That's what makes the SFN OFDM concept SFN friendly. So you can't have an echo fall inside that guard interval. So in that broadcast gateway, you choose what guard interval you want that matches your market and your terrain, your transmitter spacing. So they chose a guard interval of 2048, which is 296 microseconds. So a 50 kilometer is 167 microseconds away, or space, as the crow flies, or as speed of light flies. So we're totally within a 300 microsecond guard interval, okay? So this SFN is gonna work. So Seoul broadcast system, KBS and NBC are on this tower up at this mountain. It's a fun cable car ride. The cable car is run by KBS through the King broadcaster in Korea Broadcast System. So they own and operate the cable car. And there's a schedule, you have to sign in. And KBS people get priority. They get the first cars in the morning and they get the last cars at night, okay? If you're one of the other broadcasters, you have to, go off time. So this is a 5 kilowatt transmitter on test in Quincy. This is what it looks like installed. One of the things the Koreans do is they always do a main alternate, complete redundant transmitter with an RF switch and U-links, and they do an A and a B antenna. So they got complete transmitter redundancy, complete antenna redundancy, feed line redundancy, and they can feed any one transmitter into any given feed line by switching these U-links around. And the transmitter site people, I look at it and I have to think about it. The transmitter site people, bang, 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 they got it switched around. I mean, they live with it. They're all the same, so they can do that. So the ASI to 310 converters here, unceremoniously thrown out, and here's your new distribution amp, okay? A Cisco 34 whatever switch, all right? So it's really cool. Any port on there I can plug in and I can get the stream, all right? So Ethernet switch is a built-in distribution amp in the new world. So up at Guanac Mountain, you have all the comforts of home. This is unlike probably people have not seen in years in the US. You can watch TV, okay? These gentlemen watch the feeds coming in, they watch the transmitters, they have transmitter control panels here. The transmitters are downstairs from them. They can see the remote transmitters. This site is staffed 24 hours a day, okay? It's that serious because on-air is reliable. They have a cook. She fixes them lunch. And yes, that's a tub of kimchi that is available at any time for them to snack on. And if you have to, you can spend a night. The last cable car is at 6, and like I said, KBS people get priority. Namsan Tower, north of Seoul, it's in a park, a lot of people, tourist area, you've probably seen it, but it's easy to get to visit. And this is the Yongmun site, and you notice I moved my road to 3.0 sign, because this is the road to this site. This is a Korean Air Force missile detection site. We had to give our passports and put our cameras away and stuff like that, and no Wi-Fi at this site, okay? They make mention of how far they are away from a missile strike or whatever, so very serious issues here. So there's transmitters at Yongmun. Again, distribution amps, and IP input issues are serious. And right now, we don't have any test equipment to run these things down. So we have to use Wireshark. Try to find the missing packet in Wireshark, okay? If you're doing VoIP, it's pretty easy. Gwangyo Mountain was a hike, okay? We park down here, and then we have to hike here, all right? So that's us on the hike. And there's a U.S. Army site that was where we made the turn here. And I said, certainly the U.S. Army's got a trail here or four-wheelers or something. Nope. We hiked it, okay? I wanted to show you this. I'm running out of time, but I wanted to show you this video here real quick of not coming up. Why is that? Here we go, we'll go this way. This is equipment delivery to Guangyo Mountain. This is how it gets there. You take a network analyzer, you hire somebody to mule it up the mountain and mule it back. But you can't do that with transmitter gear, antenna gear, coax, etc. Okay, see how it kind of landed gently, then it gets picked up and moved again here and set back down. And voila, some stuff is there. So after that, things are installed. Lo and behold, after delivery, this is what the mask filter tune looked like from the factory. Real nice. You can see all 8 cavities and our reflection. This is what it looked like after the landing. Okay, so some tuning and stuff went on there. But in the end, you know, they're on air in UHD. We made the Olympics. Everyone was happy. And I share with you, we even have 4K antennas. So I thought that was brilliant. I'm like, a 4K, okay. Marketing at its best. Thank you very much.
Quick question, anybody? Joe, I thank you very much.
Thanks.
Consider